let's talk about one of the most incredible things we do as humans, language. I mean, how does it even work? What's the secret engine running in our minds that lets us spin a few sounds into a whole universe of ideas? Well, we're going to try and find out. The philosopher Wilhelm von Humboldt really nailed it with this quote. Think about it for a second. We've got a limited number of words, a limited set of rules, and a brain that's, definitely finite. And yet, with those limited tools, we can create an absolutely endless stream of sentences, thoughts, and stories. So, that's the big question, right? How is that even possible? Is there some kind of special trick, a secret ingredient in our mental toolkit that makes it all happen? Well, many linguists think they've found it. And that secret ingredient? It's something called recursion. Now, the idea itself is pretty simple, but it is incredibly powerful. The best way to think about it is like those Russian nesting dolls. You can always pop one doll inside a bigger one, and that one inside another, and on it goes. In language, we do the exact same thing, just by tucking one phrase inside another, phrase of the same kind. Let's actually watch this engine go. We start with something simple. The cat eats. Easy enough. Now let's use a recursive rule to add a little detail about the cat. The cat that the dog chased eats. Okay, now here's the magic. We can use the very same rule again, this time to describe the dog. The cat that the dog that the boy petted chased eats. You see the pattern here? In theory, we could just keep doing this forever. That's the power of recursion. But here's the thing. Just because we can theoretically do this, does that mean our brains are actually running on a totally infinite recursive program? Or is this more of a neat trick that has its limits? I mean, let's be real. You never hear anyone actually say a sentence with 10 phrases nested inside of it. So what's really going on inside our heads? To get to the bottom of this, a team of scientists set up something you could call a grammar showdown. They basically decided to pit different kinds of grammars against each other and see which one does the best job of explaining the language we actually use every day. So this showdown really boils down to a big trade-off. In one corner, you've got this purely recursive grammar. It's super simple, really elegant. One rule can do a ton of work. The downside? It's sloppy. It predicts all those crazy long sentences that we just don't say. In the other corner, you could have a non-recursive grammar. This one would perfectly match what we hear, but it would be a total beast, unbelievably complex and clunky, with a separate rule for everything. So the real challenge is finding the sweet spot, right? The perfect balance between a grammar being simple and actually fitting with reality. To find it, the researchers used some really powerful statistical methods. Think of it like a plausibility calculator to crunch the numbers on over 21,000 sentences of real speech that adults use when talking to kids. The whole point was to see which kind of grammar an ideal learner would logically settle on, given the evidence. All right, so after all that, which model of our internal grammar actually won the showdown? Was it the simple but messy recursive one, or the super precise but clunky non-recursive one? And the result was honestly a bit of a surprise. Neither of the extremes took the prize. The winning model, which you can see as the highest bar on this chart here, was actually a middle ground grammar. It turns out our brains seem to prefer a hybrid engine, one that uses both that elegant recursive trick for complex ideas and a separate set of simpler rules for more common everyday phrases. It's the best of both worlds. But hold on, because that's not where the story ends. When the scientists looked even closer at how this winning grammar was put together, they found another twist. And this one gets to the very core of how we build our sentences. It turns out this grammar engine is even more specialized. It actually uses different tools for different parts of a sentence. So for the subject, the person or thing doing the action, like the cat, the model suggests our brain uses that hybrid mix of rules. But for the object, the thing receiving the action, like the dog, the model shows our brain goes all in, using only the powerful, fully recursive rules. It's like we're using two different strategies at the exact same time. Now, a finding like this, that our grammar might be this weird hybrid system, it doesn't just tell us how we talk. It kind of forces us to ask a much, much bigger question. Where does a system this complex even come from? For a long time, the leading idea has been Noam Chomsky's theory of universal grammar. And this is a really powerful idea. It basically says we're not born as blank slates. Instead, we're born with a kind of language faculty, an innate biological toolkit that already has the basic blueprints, including things like recursion, for any human language. But what if that's not the full picture? What if this incredible complexity of grammar isn't something we're born with? What if it's something that just emerges from another, even more basic skill that makes us human? And this leads us to a really fascinating alternative theory, the sequence hypothesis. This idea suggests that the truly unique human skill isn't grammar itself, but something way more fundamental. Our brain's uncanny ability to remember sequences, the exact order of things. So, for example, your brain instantly gets that killer wug and wug killer are completely different things. One is a wug that happens to be a killer, the other is someone who kills wugs. The meaning is all in the sequence. This hypothesis suggests that other animals just can't do this with the same precision. To them, those two phrases might just kind of blur together into the same general idea. And that's the whole point. If our brains are uniquely wired to lock down exact sequences, that one single skill could be the bedrock that allows all the complex rules of grammar, including recursion, to be built up through learning. Language wouldn't be an instinct we're born with, but an invention made possible by our amazing memory for order. So, let's just quickly retrace our steps. We started with this puzzle, infinite ideas from a finite brain. We found recursion, the secret engine. But then, this grammar showdown showed us that the engine is actually a really sophisticated hybrid, and that amazing discovery lands us right in the middle of a huge scientific debate about what it even means to be human. Which leaves us with this one last big question. Is our ability to talk a specialized instinct, hardwired into our DNA like a spider's ability to spin a web? Or is it the incredible result of one simple but profound cognitive skill, the ability to remember things in order? The jury is still out, and the investigation continues. Thanks for joining me.